Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Naruto was raised by the Inuzuka family? What misadventures could stem from such an upbringing? Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 62, Wisps of the Past. Woof. Aomaru's bark echoed over the roar of rushing water. Sasuke's trail had led the Inuzuka duo into a secluded valley with a waterfall in its midst. The location itself was nothing out of the ordinary for the area, but what made it special was its historical value, for carved onto either side of the waterfall were the statues of Konoha's founding fathers Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. Closely following his partner, Naruto made his way over Senju's statue to find Sasuke standing on top of the stone head of the ancient Uchiha, as smug as ever. Uchiha. Naruto was practically trembling with rage. That's it. He screamed. That's all you have to say for all the trouble you put us through? What more do I have to say? Sasuke replied. Get this through your thick skull, Inuzuka, you all of you, mean nothing to me. He turned to walk away. So that's just it, huh? Naruto shouted. The great Uchiha, running away like a coward. As soon as he spoke, there was a rush of dark chakra and Sasuke suddenly spun around, his cursed seal flaring. Marks had covered the left half of his body, and his left eye had taken a terrifying appearance. The sclera had turned black, and the iris was a pale, sickly shade of yellow. Che. More could be said of you. You were born in failure, and will die in failure just like the rest of your pathetic family. By this point, Naruto was practically seeing red. His fists were clenched so hard, that his nails had cut through the fabric of his gloves and into his skin. Flashback. You what? Hana's voice echoed throughout the small room. Have you lost your mind? Hanani-san has point, Sakura added. It's best if you back out of this mission. The condition of everyone in this room explains it all. Naruto leveled a steely glare towards his sister and friend. So that's it. He growled. You want me to throw in the towel, don't you? What happened to Inuzuka's never give up? Hana's eyes narrowed. I never told you to give up. I'm warning you that this mission is too dangerous. Did you see what they did to Deidara? All the more reason for me to go out there, Naruto shot back as he made his way for the door. I don't about you, but I never give up and never will. You go to that mission, and I'll never speak to you again. Naruto stopped dead in the middle of the doorway and turned around. The hurt in his eyes nearly broke Hana's heart. I'll miss you, he said, and left. At that, Hana broke down into tears. He did what he had to do, said Kiba, reaching out to comfort his sister. He had been unnaturally quiet throughout the entire argument, an act that was rather uncharacteristic of the normally rambunctious brunette. Had it been any other situation, he would have sided with his brother, but sadly this was not to be the case. End flashback. Our duty is with the pack. Kiba. Naruto's voice was barely above a whisper. You're still our good old Naruto, and we wouldn't trade you for the world. Touched by the sentiment, a few tears leaked out of the blonde's eyes. Hana. When watching out for your pack, you have to give it your all, sometimes at the risk of your life. Mom. Loyalty. An image of Hiruzen Sarutobi in his final battle flashed into Naruto's mindscape. The old man had given his all just to defend his people from his wayward pupil. Trust. The vision of the third Hokage melted into that of Tobirama Senju during the textbook description of what seemed to be the first ninja war. Beset by enemies in all sides, the second Hokage had passed the mantle to his pupil, knowing that said pupil will be the one to usher in an era of change. Courage. The scene switched to what Naruto assumed to be Minato Namikaze's battle against the Kyuubi himself. The fox loomed ominously over the landscape, wreaking havoc wherever it went, but the fourth stood strong, steadfast, and unwavering. Honor. The final vision was that of the founding fathers themselves, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. After their epic battle in the valley, Senju had spared his rival's life by exiling the Uchiha rather than executing him for his actions, an act that cemented the peace between the Senjus and Uchihas, giving rise to what was to be known as the hidden village of Konoha. Semper Fidelis, faithful and true. As those words echoed within his heart, Naruto's eyes blazed with renewed vitality and determination. Say what you will, Uchiha, but know this: I will bring you home or die trying. Erf. Trans, you'd better believe it. Aomaru agreed. Empty words, the Uchiha taunted as he turned to leave. Why should I return to a place that has nothing for me? Is that so? Naruto shouted. With that logic, what could you possibly gain from Oto? The smirk on Sasuke's lips grew even more twisted. Power. Naruto stared at Sasuke in disbelief. Kiba and Sakura. Team Kamizuki. The 8-man team. Everyone had risked their lives just to rescue the Uchiha, and he simply blew them off. Rage bubbled within him. And bit by bit, the red chakra took over him and Aomaru. Without warning, the Inuzuka duo tackled Sasuke and Naruto proceeded to beat him up. You bastard! The blonde roared as he pummeled Sasuke. How can you treat your comrades like this? Do you even have a conscience? Sasuke spat a glob of bloody saliva right into the blonde's face. My comrades! He barked in dour laughter. The whole time I was with them, did I get stronger? Was I able to fulfill my goals? Quivering with shock and anger, Naruto could not even reply. The Uchiha smirked in triumph. Thought so. Pushing the blonde off him, he made his way towards the direction of the village of Oto. But before Sasuke could take another step, Aomaru jumped in and blocked his path. I've said this once and I'll say it 1,000 times, the blonde shouted, his chest heaving. I will never leave a pack member behind, and that includes you. Kuromaru suddenly stopped walking and sniffed the air. Do you smell that? He asked his partner. Yeah. The Inuzuka matriarch sniffed and then froze. Sweet Senju. This isn't good. She murmured, breaking in a run. Lady Tsame, what's wrong? Kurenai asked as she and Kakashi struggled to catch up with their senior. No time to explain, Tsame commanded. Just follow Kuromaru. Things were not looking up for Ino and Chuji. The Akimichi was rapidly emancipating and the supplement pills Ino made were running low. If help did not arrive soon, the situation could quickly take a fatal turn. A sudden rustle in the brush alerted Ino, and instinctively, she hurled a kunai into the foliage. A black, one-eared dog with an eye patch emerged from the shrubbery. If you didn't want our help, you could have just said so, he sniped. Kuromaru. Ino sputtered. If you're here, that means dash. What in the 7 hells happened here? Upon seeing the Jonin and other Ninken emerged from the path, Ino felt her spirits soar. Chuji might just have a fighting chance. Immediately she began retelling the series of events that led up to her teammates' current state. When she finished debriefing, the Jonin were dumbfounded by the findings. This is bad, Kakashi muttered grimly. If this is what the weakest of the enemy can do. Bull. Biscuit. Take Ino and Chuji back to the village. The rest of you, stay sharp for any trace of Naruto and Shikamaru's team. This is my all fault, Kurenai whispered. I should have been dash. No, it wasn't, said the Kopinen. Since the beginning, the Uchiha clan has always thirsted for more power. You could say it was, and still is, their ultimate goal. What they want, they will take, no matter what the cost. Fugaku Uchiha slammed his fist on the table. You are an Uchiha, he lectured. And therefore you should be the best and nothing less. For the first time in the history of the Konoha Ninja Academy, we have 2 Rookies of the Year. Congratulations Naruto Inuzuka and Sasuke Uchiha. A grimacing Naruto was using his Kodachi to block off Sasuke's Chidori. Both boys pushed, trying to overwhelm the other, sparks flying from the impact, but the Inuzuka and Uchiha held strong, neither one of them relenting. I won't be taken that easy, bastard. Naruto yelled. Sasuke grit his teeth and pushed harder. Why don't you just give up? Not even in your dreams, pretty boy. Retorted the blonde. That's enough. Boomed Hayate, standing up. I'm calling the match. Sasuke Uchiha is disqualified for attempting an assassination jutsu. This match goes to Naruto Inuzuka. He is a Chunin, is he not? Sasuke sullenly nodded in affirmative. And you're still a Genin, Aren't you? Burning with humiliation, Sasuke nodded again. So doesn't that make Naruto Inuzuka your superior? No more. The Uchiha murmured. His Sharingan flared and he threw Naruto off him, backhanding the blonde into Aomaru. No more. He shouted, stalking towards the duo. I will no longer play second fiddle to you mangy mongrels. You are not above me. I never said I was. Naruto yelled back. Liar. The Uchiha screamed. No matter what I do is inconsequential, because you always upstage me. You always have. You're delusional. Naruto snarled. What you call upstaging is me trying my best to protect my paw dash. My pack, Sasuke mimicked. I am sick of hearing you go on and on about your pack. I lost my pack. Tell me, Inuzuka, if the village is so wonderful, where were they the night my clan was slaughtered? An entire clan wiped out before their eyes, and they did nothing. He lifted the blonde by the collar of his shirt and punched him in the stomach, the force throwing into the lake below. Rof. Aomaru lunged for the raven once more, but Sasuke evaded the attack and punted the puppy into the lake as well. Sasuke felt the chakra surge over him, relishing in its energy. This power. This must be the power that Orochimaru was referring to. He peered over at his cursed seal. If it was just that much then, how much more would I receive if I release the seal? Naruto and Aomaru surfaced out of the water, gasping for breath. The blonde glared up to see Sasuke smirking down at them. He's lost his marbles. Definitely lost it. But a comrade is a comrade. Aomaru. You still good? Woof, yip, woof. Trans, yeah, still fightin'. How about you? Battle ready as always, the blonde replied as he stood up and channeled the chakra to his feet. He turned to Sasuke. You hear that, Uchiha? It'll take more than a measly punch to the gut to keep me down. Shikyu no Jutsu. Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu. Sasuke chuckled darkly. I commend you on your persistence. But that won't help you this time. He leapt off Madara's effigy and charged towards the Inuzuka duo. And as if it reflected the violence in the once peaceful valley below, the sky began to darken and the distant rumble of thunder could be heard. I'm telling you, I'm fine. And I'm telling you that we'll be dead ducks if we don't head back. Tenten insisted. It's just a flesh wound, Neji replied heatedly. I can still fight. It's a hole in your shoulder. Tenten shouted. How in the world is that a flesh wound? If I can move, that means I can still fight, Neji replied in a matter-of-fact manner. Tenten was beside herself in exasperation. Sweet Senju, you're so stubborn. We have to get back. Even if you can still fight, that wound is hampering your performance. Stop nagging me. Neji shouted, balling his fists. Shikamaru was right, you girls are so dash. Tenten threateningly raised a fist. You finish that sentence, and I swear you will be in a universe of pain. Neji glared at her defiantly. Trouble so dash, he was cut off as his teammate tackled and straddled him with a furious shriek. But before Tenten could even lay the first punch, she found her arm suddenly encased by a swarm of beetles. Surprised, she turned to see Shino Aburame and a punky-looking brunette that she recognized as Sabuku Nogara's twin brother, Kankuro, standing behind them. Break it up and get a room, you lovebirds. Called the Sunanin. Growling, Tenten got off Neji and took a step towards Kankuro, only to have more of Shino's Kikai bugs swarm around her. How about if I break you up instead? She retorted. Kankuro snorted. As if you could. Tenten's eyes narrowed. Why I oughta dash. Enough. At the outburst, everyone fell silent and all eyes turned towards Shino. It was extremely rare for the stoic boy to raise his voice, and when he did, it was usually not a good sign. This is the kind of unprofessional behavior that disrupts our efficiency, Shino went on. Neji, you are supposed to be a prodigy, but right now the only thing prodigious about you is your childishness. Tenten, Kankuro, you are supposedly Chunin, but all I see are a pair of immature brats. Neji glared into the other boy's shaded eyes. Shino, we have been through a lot today, so I think you of all people should understand how we're feeling right now. Neji, that's enough. Tenten hissed, elbowing her teammate on the ribs. Have you no sense of shame? Kankuro snickered behind his hand. Ah, isn't that cute? A lover's dispute. Shut up, Neji and Tenten ground out, not even sparing him a glance. It seems that what I have just said has little impact, so here is my ultimatum: if you three don't start acting maturely, I will send Guy-sensei a very detailed report of your mission performance. Maybe a session of his team bonding exercise might just be the remedy. Tenten paled, but Neji stood his ground. You wouldn't. Try me. Tisk. You couldn't do a thing to me even if you tried, Kankuro scoffed. You ain't the boss of me. I maybe not be, Shino replied. But the Kaze Kage is. Imagine what could happen to you if he were to read the copy of that mission report. You can't do that. Kankuro shouted. That's dash. Perfectly legal, finished Shino. When shinobi from different villages participate in the same mission, their respective leaders receive a copy of the mission report from the officer in charge, who in this case, just happened to be me. Kankuro glowered. You're despicable. For once, I agree, Neji quipped rather sourly. Thanks, said the Aburame. I try. Come on, let's just go home, Tenten sighed. I have a bad feeling that Shino isn't the type to make empty threats. The longer they fought, the more Naruto realized the gravity of his predicament. Just like in the Forest of Death, Sasuke's cursed seal boosted his strength and reflexes, making it very hard for the blonde, even with Aomeru, to keep up. A powerful kick from the Uchiha sent Naruto airborne once more. Those who disobey the rules are scum, but those who forsake their comrades are lower than scum. He's in the darkness. But there's still hope. You can bring him back into the light. Naruto. Wait up. The blonde turned to see Sakura wheeling herself towards his direction. What is it? Sakura maneuvered her wheelchair to a stop. Good luck on your mission, and take care, she whispered. Thanks, I will, Naruto replied. Worried green eyes locked with determined blue. I know there's no love lost between you and Sasuke, and I know he's a royal pain, but please bring him back for teammates' sake. Don't worry, Naruto assured her. I plan to. He flashed her a grin. And that's a promise. I won't give up. I'll never surrender. Blue eyes flashed open. Because it'll be a cold day in hell when I do. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. There was a great cloud of smoke, followed by a mass of shadow clones. One of them jammed his Kodachi to the cliff wall, and others grabbed each other by the ankles until a large chain of Narutos were formed with the original and the beast clone hanging at the end. The Naruto chain swung, propelling the original Naruto towards one direction. As it swung back, it launched the beast clone towards the other direction. And just then, Gatsuga! The twin drills sent Sasuke spiraling into the carved visage of Madara Uchiha's right eye with a crash. The shadow clones vanished with a puff, leaving Naruto and his beast clone to face the Uchiha. Look Uchiha, Naruto reasoned. It doesn't have to be this way. Let's just put this all behind us and go home. Tsunade could dash. What does she know? Sasuke lashed back. What does the village know? None of them could fathom my pain. All they care about is the Sharingan and what it could do for them. There was no justice. Not even a little for that lost child all those years ago. He suddenly got back to his feet and punched Naruto back into the lake. And that is why. The Raven went on. I want to exact my vengeance on the man responsible for my pain. Itachi Uchiha, the Uchiha clan's pride. And downfall. Chapter 63, Legacy of Darkness. 7-year-old Sasuke Uchiha came bounding up the steps of the Uchiha clan's main house. Nissan, Nissan. He squealed excitedly. I'll be starting at the Ninja Academy tomorrow. That means I'm catching up with you now. Itachi chuckled lightly. Is that so? He asked, ruffling Sasuke's hair. Yep. Beamed the younger brother. I'm gonna graduate Rookie of the Year, and become a Chunin, and then Jonin, and then Umbu Dash. Slow down there, Sasuke, Itachi said. You know what they say, haste makes waste. Maybe it should be for the best if you go at your own pace. Sasuke pouted. No way. You're my hero and I wanna be just like you, and that means you gotta help me train with my kunai. You promised. Sorry little brother, but I have to get ready for an important mission tomorrow, Itachi said, poking Sasuke lightly on the forehead. Maybe next time. You're always saying something like that, Sasuke huffed, rubbing his forehead. Don't be a sourpuss, Itachi chided. To make it up to you, how would you like to tag along with me to the police headquarters instead? Sasuke beamed. For real? The older Uchiha nodded. Yep. I'm in. Sasuke cheered. Race you there. Sasuke looked at up the building looming over him. Itachi, this is the place where father works, right? Yes, his older brother replied. This is the headquarters for the Konoha military police. I was wondering, Sasuke said, peering up at the sign on top of the building. Why does the police force bear our clan symbol? Well, to put it simply, the man who established the military police was our ancestor, Itachi explained. Since the founding of Konoha, our clan has upheld the peace and order of the village. That's why the Uchiha crest is set on all the police buildings as homage to our noble clan. Remember Sasuke, only those who can enforce the law are superior shinobi. Sasuke was bursting with pride. Whoa, father's that great. He turned to his brother. Say Itachi, do you ever plan on joining the military police one day? Maybe. I think you should, piped up the younger boy. I know I will, when I grow up. They walked into the building in relative silence until Sasuke spoke up again. Father will be attending tomorrow's entrance ceremony, right? Yeah. Sasuke grinned. Now I'm one step closer to realizing my dream. You're late, Fugaku Uchiha bluntly spoke as his sons entered his office. Nonetheless, you're here. Take a seat. As you know, the Uchiha patriarch went on. Depending on the success of tomorrow's mission, your enlistment into Umbu will be official. Black eyes bled into scarlet. Is that understood? Yes sir, Itachi said. Anyway, to assess your performance, Fugaku continued. I have decided that I will take part in tomorrow's special mission as well. I wouldn't worry so much about it, father, Itachi replied, throwing a quick glance at his brother. However. Father. Sasuke began. About tomorrow dash. Our mission tomorrow will be a very important event for our clan, Fugaku continued, not even sparing his younger son a glance. Sasuke averted his eyes towards the floor. Itachi noticed his brother's embarrassment and decided to speak up. Forgive me father, he spoke, each word calm and careful. But I have decided that I would drop out of tomorrow's mission. Have you gone mad? Fugaku thundered. You know how crucial tomorrow's mission is. What has gotten into you? Tomorrow is Sasuke's entrance ceremony into the Ninja Academy, Itachi explained. Since you will not be present there, I have decided to attend it in your stead. Shocked out of their wits, both Fugaku and Sasuke speechlessly stared at the Uchiha prodigy. The entrance ceremony usually requires one's relative to attend, Itachi continued. I believe you received the missive, father. Fugaku sighed heavily before replying. I understand, he said with gruff resignation. I'll accompany Sasuke to the academy tomorrow. The next day was bright and sunny. Chirping birds flew overhead as the new academy students lined up before the Hokage and the teachers. And congratulations to the new students, Sarutobi boomed over the throng. Please work hard to uphold the ninja code and may the will of fire burn brightly in you all. There was a joyful cacophony as the first years clapped and cheered. Behind them, their parents, although not quite as loud, were just as elated, except one. Out of the corner of his eye, Sasuke could glimpse his father standing behind a few of the other parents, looking just as stony-faced as ever. After the ceremony, the first years and their parents broke off into groups and began mingling with the teachers, and each other. Lord Uchiha, said the headmaster, shaking Fugaku's hand. It's a great honor to have your son enter the academy. Given his upbringing, I'm sure he will be a star pupil, just like his brother. Fugaku chuckled lightly. Enough flattery, he said. Although I am certain Sasuke will not disappoint. After all, he is an Uchiha. The next morning, Sasuke was the one of the first to arrive. Immediately upon entering the classroom, he took a seat in the second row from the blackboard. As the minutes ticked by, the other students began to arrive one by one, and soon the classroom was filled with first years. Not far from Sasuke, a pair of boys were engaged in idle gossip. "Do you see what I see?" whispered the first boy. "It's an Uchiha." His friend gasped in amazement. "No way," he said. "I thought those guys were too good for the academy. Didn't an Itachi Uchiha graduate after just 1 year?" "Hey, maybe this Uchiha is just like Itachi," said the first boy. "You know, all genius-like, and stuff." As he looked around, Sasuke noticed that it was not only the boys behind him talking about his clan. Everywhere he looked, everyone seemed to be in deep discussion about the Uchiha clan and their prestige, strengthening his resolve to be the best that the Uchiha clan could offer. By the end of the day, Sasuke was practically exasperated with his classmates. True, they were first years, and yes, some of them were civilians, but it was no excuse for their lackadaisical performance. Not even the clan heirs met the Uchiha's standards. The only other student that Sasuke respected was Shino Aburame. He was quiet, focused, and everything that a shinobi should be. But beyond that, everyone else was a disappointment. Ino Yamanaka preferred to gossip with her friends, and both Shikamaru Nara and Chuji Akimichi were more interested in slacking off rather than training. Hinata Hyuga was no better. True, she was familiar with her clan's jutsu, but she was too passive, too meek. Worst of all were the Inuzuka brothers. All they ever did was bait the teacher and disrupt the lecture. Through first glance, it was clear that nothing good could be gained by associating with them. Sasuke sighed and made his way into the house, hoping to get some advice from his brother. However, on his way to Itachi's room, he heard ominous laughter coming from his father's study. "Congratulations on your promotion to Umbu," Fugaku spoke. "As expected from my son." Sasuke felt his heart wrench. Despite his best efforts, his father would always acknowledge Itachi over him. Mikoto Uchiha clicked her tongue as she dressed another one of Sasuke's scrapes. "Sasuke, dear," she said. "I wish you'd take it easy once in a while, especially since today is your day off. You don't have to push yourself so." "But Itachi graduated after only 1 year," Sasuke pointed out. "Stuff and nonsense," his mother rebuked. "Times have changed since then. You don't need to copy everything Itachi does. Anybody could be a prodigy in their own right and pace. Besides, that boy has always been rather special." At that statement, Fugaku's words echoed once more in the back of the youngest Uchiha's mind. "As expected from my son." "Alright class, here are your report cards for the first semester," Iruka announced. "Now remember, it must be signed by a parent or guardian. And trust me, I will know if it's forged." When Sasuke received his card, he quickly opened it, eager to see the fruits of his labor. His card read: Taijutsu, A. Ninjutsu, A+. Individual, A+. Team Dynamics, A. Strategy, A. He grinned to himself. His father would be pleased. "Not too shabby," Fugaku commented, looking over Sasuke's report card. "Keep this up, and you might just yet become a shinobi of your brother's caliber. You are dismissed." Sasuke wordlessly padded to his room, crushed. It was always Itachi this, and Itachi that. It would be nice to be acknowledged for once, he said to himself. "To have father tell me, as expected from my son. What do you mean you can't attend?" Fugaku thundered. "You know how important tomorrow's meeting is." The outburst woke Sasuke from his slumber and he crept downstairs to see what the commotion was all about. All the lights were off, but the moonlight clearly illuminated the figures of his parents and brother. "I have a mission tomorrow," Itachi replied rather calmly. "Or did you forget that a shinobi's duty is to his village?" Fugaku's eyes narrowed. "What kind of mission?" "I'm sorry, father, but I cannot relay the details," Itachi whispered. "It is classified. You may be a ninja of Konoha, but you are an Uchiha first and foremost." bellowed the Uchiha patriarch. You are the bridge between us and the village, do you understand? Itachi bowed his head. Yes sir. Good, Fugaku said. Impress them well, and then come to tomorrow's meeting. For a few seconds, Itachi said nothing. Then his eyes shifted to the left. Sasuke, he called rather gently. If you must use the bathroom, go do so now, and go to bed. Oh okay, Sasuke stammered, sliding the shoji door shut. What are you waiting for? Snapped the father. Stop dallying about and go to bed. Fearing a flare-up from his father, the poor boy scampered back to his room despite the darkness, stumbling as he fled. 2 days after the midnight fiasco, the Uchiha brothers sat at their porch, talking and watching the sunset. Father's forever going on and on about you, Sasuke muttered, a twinge of envy in his voice. Itachi exhaled loudly. Is that so? He asked. Am I that unpleasant? I wouldn't really say that, said the younger brother. But dash. Itachi chuckled ruefully. That's okay. Shinobi have been always hated and envied for ages. Truthfully, to be top-notch is something to consider carefully. To be strong means that you have to be aloof and arrogant, although it always starts with what you strive for. We're unique siblings, you and I, Itachi continued. In order to overcome your hurdles, you and I have to continue living together, even if it means hating each other. Such is the life of an elder brother. But before Sasuke asked more questions, 3 Uchiha policemen appeared before the brothers. Itachi Uchiha, called the tallest man. We would like to have a word with you. Sasuke, get inside, Itachi ordered. We'll chat later. The younger brother obeyed and entered the house, but once again, curiosity got the better of him and he wound up lingering by the corner of a nearby wall, hidden from sight. Itachi stared up at the policeman blankly. What is it that you want? A policeman with long, scraggly hair spoke up. 2 men were missing from last night's clan assembly. Why were you not present? I understand that you have been occupied with various missions since you joined Umbu, and your father has come to your defense as well, but that does not give you the right to shirk your obligations to the clan. Itachi sighed wearily. I apologize. I'll be more careful from now on. Very well, said a second policeman, a middle-aged man with gray, spiky hair. But before we leave, there is one more thing we'd like to ask you. What was the motive for the suicide of Shisui Uchiha? Sasuke was puzzled. Suicide. The other person missing from last night's assembly was Shisui, Scraggly explained. He was found dead in the Nakano River last night. We theorize that you dash. I haven't seen Shisui recently, Itachi replied. But it's a shame to know that he has passed on. But still, we have to consider each and every possibility, Scraggly said. The military police has already launched an investigation. Gray reached into his bag and pulled out a carefully folded scrap of paper. This is Shisui's suicide note, he explained. And an analysis of the handwriting shows that it was definitely him who wrote it. If this is a suicide, what's there left to investigate? Itachi asked. You forget that Sherry non-users can easily forge someone's handwriting, Scraggly replied. It was written on this piece of paper, Gray added, handing the note to Itachi. Itachi unfolded the note and read it. I am tired of my duties. Shisui had wrote. There is no for the Uchiha. Or me. I cannot walk this path any further. He was known as Shisui the Mirage, Gray said, shaking his head. He had his whole life ahead of him, and he would have done anything for the clan. And that's why it's a puzzlement as to why he would suddenly call it quits and die, Scraggly finished. Itachi furrowed his brows. It's not wise by judge one by appearances and preconceptions. As ninjas we should always look underneath the underneath. Despite the obvious glare, Scraggly was not affected. We'll leave this note with you, he instructed. Take it to Umbu and request that they investigate as well. Itachi's reply was a passive understood. I certainly hope there would be more evidence, Gray muttered, making his way to the door. The third policeman, who had been quiet the whole time, stopped and turned around. The military police has connections to the Umbu as well, he warned. Should you try and hide anything from us, we will know right away. Why don't you be more direct? At this, all three policemen froze in their tracks and faced the Uchiha heir, their Sharingan flaring. So you did suspect me, huh? Itachi said a bit too calmly. You brat, Scraggly hissed. You knew all along. Listen Itachi, warned Gray. Betrayal of the clan is a grave crime. If found guilty, you won't go unpunished. All of a sudden, all three policemen found themselves lying outside the gate, all bruised and battered. Just now I said it's not wise to judge others by appearances and preconceptions, Itachi murmured. You assumed that I was patient. Scraggly glared hatefully at his fellow Uchiha. You. The clan, Itachi went on. The clan has become too complacent, too stagnant. You rely too much on your numbers and underestimate my skill, and as a result you lie here, beaten. You cling too much on the organization, the clan, your name. Peeking from his corner, Sasuke worriedly watched the scene unfolding before him. He had never seen his brother like that before. It was only a matter of time before things got ugly. Shisui was ordered to keep tabs on you, Gray grunted out. Within 6 months of your admission to Umbu, your speech and actions were become more and more erratic. What exactly is going on? Itachi's gaze was stony and unwavering. It is foolish to fear something that you don't even know. Itachi, cease and desist. Itachi spun around to see Fugaku coming towards them. What has gotten into you? Asked the Uchiha Patriarch. Lately, you have been acting rather strangely. I assure you, father, nothing's wrong. I am just doing my duty. Then why did you not attend? Fugaku pressed on. Itachi's eyes were wild and unfocused. In order to reach the pinnacle of my abilities. He took a kunai, twirling it aimlessly, and hurled it straight into a fence. The weapon embedded itself right in the center of the Uchiha emblem painted on the wall. I have lost all hope for this pathetic clan. You have all forgotten what is most important, because you cling too much on the clan. True change cannot be made if it is bound by laws, limitations, and delusions. What arrogance is this? Fugaku roared. From behind his hiding place, Sasuke felt a lump form in his throat. He could still remember the words of wisdom his brother told him. Since the founding of the village, our clan has upheld the peace and order of our village. That's why the Uchiha crest is set on all the police buildings, as homage to our noble clan. To be top-notch is something to consider carefully. To be strong means that you have to be aloof and arrogant, although it always starts with what you strive for. Itachi. Why? Sasuke whispered to himself. Why would you do this? Enough already. Fugaku thundered. If you keep up this foolishness, I will have no choice but to arrest you myself. Scraggly turned to his superior. Captain, don't bother with the threats anymore. What he just did to us is clearly a violation of both clan and village law. Please order an arrest. Fugaku glared at his firstborn. Well. Sasuke could bear it no longer, and dashed out of his hiding spot. Nisan, stop. Please just stop. He cried. Upon hearing his brother's pleas, Itachi snapped out of whatever trance he was under. He dropped to his knees before the gathered policemen, a clear act of humility and submission. It was not I who killed Shisui, he said. However, I recant what I just said earlier. Please accept my sincerest apologies. Fugaku sighed heavily. Very well. You are forgiven this once. Captain. Scraggly exclaimed. What he did? It was most likely a case of the nerves, Fugaku finished. Lately, he has been swamped with the Umbu missions and always comes back exhausted. That is no excuse for the humiliation we had to endure. Shouted number 3. Fugaku raised a hand. The Umbu is a special battalion under the Hokage's direct authority. Even the military police cannot arrest them without the Hokage's approval. As Itachi is my son, his actions will be my responsibility. The 3 policemen mulled over the decision before accepting it and withdrew. Itachi, come inside, the Uchiha Patriarch commanded. You and I have a lot to discuss. Dutifully, Itachi obeyed the order. However, it did not stop him from flashing a belligerent glare at his brother as he entered the house. Chapter 64, swan song of the Uchihas. That night, after the incident with the policeman, tensions ran high in the Uchiha household. The relationship between Itachi and Fugaku had become acrid, and Mikoto was worrying herself to death as she tried to maintain whatever peace remained. To avoid more trouble, Sasuke was sent straight to bed right after dinner. But with the increasing hostility downstairs, and his mind still awash with memories of the altercation, Sasuke found it hard to sleep. The most chilling aspect of it all was the glare Itachi gave him. That was no ordinary Sharingan I saw, Sasuke thought to himself. It was something else entirely. I'm sure of it. Bit by bit, he let sleep claim him, praying that the bad vibes would clear out by tomorrow. Unfortunately for Sasuke, tomorrow was much worse. The conflict had gone well past mere arguments and had now entered the cold shoulder stage. Itachi completely ignored both Fugaku and Sasuke, and Fugaku's pride prevented him from reconciling him with his firstborn. The frigid interactions continued for 2 more days until Mikoto finally had enough and decided to talk some sense into her husband. Although Fugaku had always been the more dominant of the couple, marriage was a union of equals, and while she appeared meek, Mikoto was no pushover. She marched into the study, and sure enough, found her husband there, looking over some documents. "Dear heart," she began. "You and Itachi really should dash." Fugaku slammed his fist on the table, effectively cutting her off. "That boy's arrogance will be the death of us." He snarled. "I have been too lenient with him for far too long." He sprang from his desk, ready to barge into Itachi's room. Mikoto grabbed her husband's sleeve just in time. "Just listen to yourself," she snapped. "You're driving yourself to insanity with all this nonsense with Itachi, and here I was, hoping that things would have cooled down by now." She cast her eyes downwards. "But I guess I was wrong. Itachi isn't your only son, you know," she continued angrily. At the statement, Fugaku glared at his wife, only to have her return it tenfold. "Even Sasuke is being affected by the feud. The poor dear is a nervous wreck, and desperately needs some reassurance." She clicked her tongue in displeasure. "You could at least spend some quality time with him. It would do you both a lot of good." And just like that, she was gone, leaving a dazed and bewildered clan head to ponder over his actions. "So, how was school?" Fugaku began rather lamely as he racked his brains for a proper icebreaker. Sasuke looked up at his father in surprise, but answered anyway. "The usual," he said. "I'm neck and neck with Naruto Inuzuka for top spot." He braced himself for the upcoming sermon. "I see," said the Uchiha patriarch, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "I think I may have something that could help. Come with me." However, Sasuke simply stood there bug-eyed and mouth agape. Whatever happened to the lecture on his inability to measure up to Itachi? The lectures on Uchiha superiority? Who was that man, and what did he do to his father? Fugaku poked his head back into the room. "Hurry up, son. Uchihas don't dawdle." Snapping out of his stupor, Sasuke obeyed and followed after his father. "Katon, Gukakyu no Jutsu." A large fireball burst forth from Fugaku's lips, flared around a bit, and ultimately burned itself out. Sasuke clapped his hands in gleeful admiration. "Father!" he cheered. "That was amazing." "What you just witnessed is a basic Uchiha ninjutsu," Fugaku stated. "To use it, you must draw the chakra from your mouth into your chest, hold it there, and then blow it right out. You were taught the seals a while ago, think you're up to the challenge." Sasuke's eyes flashed with determination. "Father has finally recognized my potential and I won't let him down. Not now, not ever." He zipped through the hand seals Fugaku taught him, took a deep breath, and blew out. A tiny flicker. "Not even close to Itachi's level," Fugaku commented, a disappointed twinge in his voice. At this, Sasuke's shoulders fell. "Maybe," the Uchiha clan head went on. "It was just too soon for you." Since Fugaku's latest assessment of his skill, Sasuke spent day and night perfecting the Gukakyu no Jutsu. Katon, Gukakyu no Jutsu. The ensuing fireball was bigger than the one during his first try, but it was still puny in Uchiha standards. An Uchiha is seen as an adult when he can use the Katon Jutsu. Katon, Gukakyu no Jutsu. This time, the fireball was now of an acceptable size, but Sasuke suddenly lost control of it and managed to sear the lower third of his face. The Uchiha are infamous for their fire manipulation. Likewise, the mind of an Uchiha could either be a gentle flame or a raging inferno. Father! Fugaku stopped walking and turned to see Sasuke behind him. The jutsu dash is still too advanced for you. Even if I spent an entire week teaching you, the results will be the same. No, it won't. Sasuke burst out. Fugaku was taken aback by this latest show of defiance. First Itachi, then Mikoto, and now Sasuke? He frowned. He was the clan head, so they should respect his authority. If this kept up, the entire clan might be thrown into mutiny. He was about to punish Sasuke for his insolence, but his son's next words stopped him short. I've finally mastered the jutsu, said Sasuke. So I'd like you to come and see. Within moments, the two Uchiha were gathered at the lakeside. Fugaku watched apprehensively as Sasuke did the seals. Katon, Gukakyu no Jutsu. Fugaku was momentarily dumbstruck as a fireball, more massive than anything that he or Itachi could ever make, blazed forth from Sasuke's lips. As soon as Fugaku gathered his wits, he silently made his way back to the house. Taking the silence as another rejection, Sasuke forlornly gazed at his father's back as he tried to hold back the tears that were threatening to fall. As expected of my son, Fugaku suddenly spoke, jolting Sasuke out of his despair. You have done well. From this day forth, you now have the privilege to bear the Uchiha clan crest. Now you must improve and make us proud. Yes, sir. Sasuke bellowed. And one more word of advice, said his father. Whatever you do, do not follow your brother's footsteps. That night, Sasuke lay on his bed, staring contemplatively at the ceiling. Do not follow your brother's footsteps, his father had said. Whatever could that mean? The more he thought about it, the more Sasuke realized that there were discrepancies in Itachi's behavior. He was doting and mild-mannered one minute, and cold and vicious, the next. Putting two and two together, it was safe to assume that Itachi had changed. Itachi! Can we please train with Shuriken today? Itachi scowled. I'm busy. Why don't you ask father to teach you? But you're the best at Shuriken, Sasuke contended. Everybody knows that. I wish you'd stop treating me like a burden. Forgive me, Sasuke, Itachi whispered, poking the younger brother in the forehead. Maybe next time. I just don't have time to look after you today. Shaking his head and mumbling to himself, he stood up and left the room. Sasuke rubbed at his forehead and glared at Itachi's back. Always saying, forgive me, Sasuke. Maybe next time, and then poking my head. His expression softened. That's a good sign. The old Itachi is still somewhere in there. A few days later, Sasuke was having lunch when he decided to ask his mother a very important question. What does father exactly think of Itachi and me? Mikoto looked up from the dishes she was washing. Why do you ask? Father always tells Itachi, as expected of my son, and then he told me the exact same thing a few days ago. Mikoto smiled. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Sasuke's gaze averted to his half-eaten meal. But things haven't been going so well between father and Itachi. Am I only a replacement for Nisan? Listen to me, Sasuke, listen to me. Itachi is Itachi and you are you. Don't let anyone, not even your father, tell you otherwise. There was a loud bang as Sasuke slammed his fist on the table. Then why is it always about Itachi? Why? Mikoto shook her head, her smile somewhat rueful. That's not true. She said. Your father represents the whole clan. It is he who strengthens the clan and defends it from bad elements. But there will come a time when your father will no longer be able to perform these duties. As the eldest son of the clan head, Itachi is the designated heir and will inherit the title when the time comes, and that is probably why your father pays so much attention to your brother. But, Mikoto continued with a renewed, light-hearted timbre in her voice. When he's alone with me, your father has nothing but praise for you. And because of that, he's always awkward around you. While Sasuke pondered over his mother's words, Fugaku entered the kitchen, took a seat across Sasuke, and helped himself to a steaming cup of tea. Upon seeing his father, the younger Uchiha's thoughts went back to Itachi. Not to mention, that there was something preternatural about his brother's Sharingan. "Father," Sasuke piped up. "Does the Sharingan have any variations?" Fugaku nearly choked on his tea. "Isn't it a bit too soon to learn about the Sharingan? You have yet to master your Katon Jutsu." "I'm an Uchiha, aren't I?" Sasuke countered. "I'm bound to get it eventually." Fugaku sighed. "Well, there is one form, it's an evolution of the Sharingan known as the Mangekyo Sharingan. Throughout our clan's long and illustrious history, only a few have ever developed this legendary dojutsu. It is also said that it will only awaken in certain conditions, but what these are have been lost in time." Although Fugaku's revelation of the Mangekyo explained the strange Sharingan Sasuke saw, it did not shed any light on the abrupt change in Itachi's attitude. What exactly did Fugaku imply when he warned his second-born to not follow Itachi? It was that exact thought that raised Sasuke's second question. "Father, why doesn't Itachi want to spend time with me anymore?" "You must understand that Itachi is very busy," Fugaku began. "As the future head of the Uchiha clan, it is required of Itachi to learn the various functions and responsibilities of such a position." "That still doesn't give him the right to act like he's better than me," Sasuke complained. Fugaku closed his eyes. "As his family, you should also understand that Itachi does not befriend that easily. That's just how he is." The next day, Sasuke left for school early, eager to start, and end, the day with some extra training. Striving to become even a better shinobi than Itachi, Sasuke did his best to nail every exercise. By the time he was finished, it was already nightfall. As he made his way to the Uchiha district, Sasuke suddenly felt a dark premonition. And the moment he passed through the gates, what he saw surpassed even his worst fears. The streets were littered with dead Uchihas. Some of these had even just sent their regards to Sasuke that very morning. Despite the panic swelling within him, Sasuke ran to his house, praying his parents were still alive and well. But it was too late. Yanking the door open, Sasuke found the decapitated corpses of his parents, lying in a pool of blood. The gruesome sight was too much for the 8-year-old to bear, and he screamed, the sound piercing the awful silence that had enveloped the once bustling compound. "Father! Mother! Who did this to you, to everyone?" "I did," said Itachi Uchiha, his shadowy form emerging from the darkness. "Ninisan?" Sasuke stammered out. Why? Why would you do such a thing? Foolish little brother." Sasuke shuddered at the malice oozing out of Itachi's voice. "It is because you lack hatred. Mangekyo Sharingan." And that was when Sasuke's nightmare truly began. End flashback. And the rest is history. Now do you understand why I must do this? "Look Uchiha, I feel your pain, but Naruto tried to reason, but he was cut off with more derisive laughter from the other boy. "What would you know about the agony I have endured?" Sasuke cackled, his cursed mark reactivating. "You have everything. A loving family, good friends, a promising career, but that's going to change real soon. Starting with that mangy mutt of yours." With the Inuzuka duo frozen in shock by his sudden transformation, Sasuke took this opportunity to create a Chidori. Before either Naruto or Orochimaru could react, the Uchiha grabbed the red puppy by the scruff of his neck, thrust the lightning blade into his chest and ripped out his heart. "How does it feel to have someone you care about taken away from you?" The Uchiha sneered, relishing at Naruto's grief-stricken expression. "A lovely sensation, don't you think? You. Heh. Why so eloquent?" Sasuke continued as he squeezed Orochimaru's disemboweled heart. "You're always going on and on about how you can sympathize with others. Now you really can." In Naruto's mindscape, the Kyuubi grinned as he felt the blonde's negative emotions engulf him. "Yes, child, give in to your rage and sorrow. Let your anger consume you. You bastard." There was a burst of demonic energy and Naruto felt himself being enveloped by the Kyuubi's chakra once more. But this time, instead of one tail, there were now two. "Ya wanna play rough, tough guy?" growled the blonde as he lunged for Sasuke. "Then let's get dangerous." Chapter 65, In the Shadow of the Valley of Death. Tsume's group had steadily made good progress in following Naruto's trail. So far, they had already covered 2/3 of the distance, when they came across the newly formed forest of bone. Is there a way through it? Kurenai asked worriedly as she peered at the imposing spikes before her. Kakashi searched of possible pathways through the jagged jumble, but came up with nothing. It's hard to say, but I think we can drill it through, he said. What do you think, Lady Tsume? Doubt it, Tsume grumbled, tapping at a bone spike as if to gauge its strength. Her fists clenched. Damn it to hell. Not even a Garuga could knock this down. And we were so close too. I think we can chakra walk through it, Kakashi suggested as he studied the spikes again. After all, it's just like a forest, right? Then it's settled, we're going over this. Whatever it is, Tsume declared. Let's move, people. Kuromaru, lead the way. The small group eased over the spikes with little to no problem, that is until they came across the corpse of a white-haired boy dangling from one of the bone trees. What is that thing? Kurenai whispered, trying to tamp down her revulsion at the sight. I'm not quite sure, but whatever is, it reeks of Orochimaru, answered the Inuzuka matriarch. Come on, let's get out of here. Just looking at it gives me the willies. They shuffled their way out of the forest as quickly as they could. It was just too eerie, too sinister, and its association with the snake Sunin did nothing to help. Just then Kuromaru went rigid and collapsed. Tsume instantly rushed to help him with Kurenai and Kakashi right behind her. Kakashi's Ninken squad stopped as well and milled around them nervously. Kuromaru. What is it? What's wrong? Shouted the tattooed brunette. I felt a disturbance. Answered the black dog as he tried to get back up. It's as if a cold wind suddenly extinguished a bright flame. Sounds like a bad omen, quipped Kurenai. Suddenly, there was a flash of lightning, followed by the faint roar of thunder. Lady Tsume, maybe it's best if you and Kuromaru stay here, Kakashi advised. Kurenai and I will take care of Naruto and Sasuke's retrieval from here. No. Shouted the black dog as he stood up on somewhat shaky legs. I can still continue. Are you sure, boy? Tsume asked concernedly. I could never forgive myself if something happened to you. Tisk, I'll be fine, Kuromaru replied, already regaining some of his earlier vigor. We're all in this together, remember? If you say so, Tsume said somewhat unsurely. She turned to the rest of the team. Okay, you heard the dog. Let's keep moving. We won't rest until we find our missing companions and bring them back. Is that clear? Crystal, ma'am. Sasuke countered another punch from Naruto only to have the blonde parry it as well. A low growl erupted from his throat. He was already tapping into the power of the cursed seal, and yet the Inuzuka was batting his attacks as if they were nothing. A particularly harsh kick from Naruto sent the Uchiha reeling. Quickly recovering from his daze, Sasuke retaliated with a Gukakyu no Jutsu, which Naruto just barely evaded. Taking this opportunity, Sasuke rushed at Naruto and hit him with a powerful sky kick, the blonde hurtling towards the lake. Fortunately for Naruto, the Kyuubi's chakra managed to cushion the impact and allowed him to walk on water as well. The Uchiha smirked nastily. Tenacious, aren't we? That's what I like about you, Yujire Tonkeki. Still fighting up to the bitter end. It really will be worth it when I finally kill you. Naruto grit his teeth. Neji was definitely right about Uchiha being consumed by the darkness, but somehow I doubt he can still be redeemed. What am I saying? Of course he could. There has to be some good left in him. Good, chuckled a darker voice. He killed Aomaru for shits and giggles. You call that good? But he's a comrade, I could never. The dark voice laughed sardonically. Comrade? Now that's rich. But the promise. Newsflash, kid. The douche killed your partner and he now wants to kill you. Naruto clutched at his head. Stop it. Stop it. How can I when it's all true, sneered the dark voice. Idealistic fool. This is the real word. Start living in it. Upon seeing Naruto's mental distress, Sasuke's lips twisted into a grotesque grin. With Inuzuka in such a state, it was the perfect time for Sasuke to attack. He grabbed 9-wired shuriken from his pouch, and hurled it towards the blonde. Sufushazen no Tachi. ×3. The shuriken whirled towards Naruto, but before they could even get close, a huge wave of demonic chakra pulsed out of the Inuzuka, diverting the weapons off target. Naruto stood before Sasuke, looking very much like a cornered animal at its last stand. With the Uchiha's attacks getting deadlier with each strike, he had to do something, and fast. Akuma no Tsuga, trans, demonic piercing fang. He veered towards Sasuke with brutal force, the red chakra spinning around in a frenzied flurry. Upon seeing the crimson drill approaching, Sasuke quickly shot a Raikyu in his defense. The result was a violent explosion that threw him backwards, followed by a cloud of steam. When the debris cleared, he could clearly see Naruto's unconscious form sprawled across the water. Charging up another Chidori, Sasuke lunged for the fallen blonde, determined to deliver the final strike. But when he plunged his hand into Naruto's chest, the blonde suddenly disappeared in a cloud of smoke. And that was when the real Naruto literally popped out of the blue and dealt a well-placed haymaker onto the Uchiha. Sasuke was livid. Even with Orochimaru's mark of power, he was nowhere closer to defeating Inuzuka as he was before. As expected of my son. His father's words, once spoken with much pride, now seemed to mock him. Soon, the voices of his deceased relatives began to chime in with Fugaku's. "This is all what's left of our once great clan," they jeered. "This sorry excuse of a ninja who can't even defeat one mangy Inuzuka." "Shut up!" Sasuke snarled. "You are weak." Itachi's voice echoed in his mindscape. "I said shut up." But instead of quieting down, Itachi's taunts became more incessant than ever. "You lack hatred. You will never defeat me unless you follow the path of hatred. Shut up." And that was when something in Sasuke snapped. His cursed seal began pulsing like mad, and the corrupt chakra surged through him, distorting his appearance. His hair grew longer, his skin became an ashy gray, and the whites of his eyes became pure black. To top it all off, a pair of giant, grotesque-looking hands had sprouted out of the Uchiha's back. "I'll show you!" he screamed. "I'll show you who's weak." Naruto grimaced. "Uchiha's completely gone bonkers, he won't respond to reason now," he noted as he observed the now monstrous Sasuke lunge towards him. "I guess there's no choice but to beat him into submission." Quickly he made the hand signs. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 clones appeared, all feral looking and cloaked in that same crimson chakra that was enveloped over the original Naruto. As Sasuke struck, all 4 blondes dodged into 4 opposing directions, and then counterattacked. Kage Bunshin Renden. Inuzuka style. A clone kicked the Uchiha in the stomach. "This is for Kiba and Sakura. This is for Hana and her team." Another clone backflipped in midair and slammed both his fists onto Sasuke's back. The third clone caught the falling Raven with another kick. "This is for Hinata and Shika and all of the others who risked their lives just to bring you back. And this is for Aomeru who died because of you," shouted the original as he and the clones leapt towards Sasuke. Shihukao Tsuga. The attack connected full force, driving the Uchiha into the ground. But what was next to come was a complete shocker. Despite being hit with enough to power to render a seasoned ninja unconscious, Sasuke did not seem to show much damage. "Kukyuku." He chuckled, picking himself off the rubble. "Is that the best you got? Now it's my turn." With an abrupt burst of speed, he dashed towards Naruto and knocked him into Senju's statue with a swipe of his giant handwing. "You see that?" sneered the Uchiha. "That was a mere lick of my potential. Shall we find out what happens when I give you the full taste of my power?" Naruto growled. "I dare you." Sasuke's smirk grew nastier still. "Moron. Do you even know where you are? You're at the Valley of the End, a perfect setting, don't you think? This is just how I imagined it would be." He went on. "You, at my mercy, to be killed like the animal that you are. Then and only then will I acquire the manga Kyosherinanon and finally bring justice to my family." Ahahaha. By this point, Naruto had had enough. "That is it. I've had it with your nonsense. You are returning to the village even if I have to beat your ass to do so." You just don't get it, do you? Sasuke snarled. This is the valley of the end. Your end. He began making the hand seals and powered up yet another Chidori, but instead of the normal blue, this Chidori had a dark tint around it. At that same moment, the red chakra around Naruto began to fizzle and a sphere of energy began forming in his hand. Both boys glared at each other one last time before charging head to head. Rasengan. Chidori. Good God, do you see what I see? Kurenai asked, pointing towards the horizon where a great ball of light could be seen. I see it, but I don't believe it, Kakashi replied, shading his eyes. That chakra. It's intense. I'd hate to be the bearer of bad news, Pakun piped up. But that's the direction where the scent trail is the strongest. Tsume paled. No. No. Breaking away from the group, she ran towards the ball of light as fast as her legs could take her. Tsume. Wait. Kuromaru called. He shot Pakun a pointed look and chased after his partner. This is bad, Kurenai muttered, repeating the words like a mantra. This is very, very bad. Well, loafing around here won't do us any good either, Kakashi remarked. Come on, let's hurry after them. Sasuke gaped in disbelief as he loomed over the battered form of Naruto Inuzuka. The blonde lay prone on the ground, a gaping hole carved into his chest. The Uchiha glanced at his right hand, trembling and painted crimson with blood. I did it. I really did it. All of a sudden, he began to laugh. At first it was a mild chuckle, but gradually it erupted into full-blown laughter. Still snickering ominously, he walked over Naruto's lifeless form and nudged it with his foot. Looks like the best rookie won, and guess what, Yujire Tonkeki? It's not you. As soon as he uttered those words, he suddenly felt an excruciating sensation shoot through the left side of his face. As his fingers traced over that area, he noticed that it had 5 gouges running through it, deep enough to cause permanent scars. The gall of it. Inuzuka actually had the gall to scar his face. Rage coursed through him, and Sasuke found himself kicking the downed Inuzuka once more. What the hell are you doing to my son? The Uchiha turned to see the Inuzuka clan head glaring at him with enough heat to send the devil himself running. For a split second, he was shocked, but regained his composure soon enough. Grinning maniacally, he replied, killing this mutt. He punctuated his words with another vicious kick, and Tsume growled. She almost sprung at him, when she noticed a patch of blood seeping underneath her son. She faltered, as if she was judging her next move, until Kuromaru let out an anguished howl. She turned to see the black dog standing over the mangled corpse of a familiar puppy. No. She whispered, dropping to her knees. No. Naruto. No. Wake up. Please wake up. However, despite his mother's pleas, Naruto remained unresponsive. Tsume howled, much like her companion earlier, and without warning lunged for Sasuke. In his heightened state, he quickly evaded her attack, mocking her as he did so. Despite her sorrow, Tsume continued with the assault, but truth be told, the pain of loss was consuming her. Although she was one of Konoha's most terrifying women, Tsume Inuzuka was powerless in the face of her own grief. Kuromaru, who had padded over to watch over Naruto, gently nudged his head. Suddenly, he noticed the visible but faint rise and fall of the blonde's chest. Tsume. He barked excitedly. Naruto's still breathing. He's alive. Tsume froze in mid-attack, allowing Sasuke enough time to catch his breath. What? She asked in a hoarse whisper. He's alive. Kuromaru yelled. It may have been too late for my son, but we can still save yours. Immediately, Tsume rushed over and quickly lifted the unconscious boy onto Kuromaru's back. Take him back to Konoha ASAP, she instructed. As for you, she turned to face the Uchiha, only to find that he had already made his escape, the rain washing out any trace of his scent. Overwhelmed by sorrow and anger, she raised her head towards the sky and screamed. Lady Tsume. There you are. Kurenai called as she and Kakashi finally arrived their destination. Naruto and Sasuke, are they? Suddenly, she stopped cold. Before her was a blood-curdling sight. Naruto's Ninken lay dead on the ground, a gaping hole at where his heart used to be. Naruto himself was hardly faring any better. He was unconscious, and like the puppy, he had a hole in his chest. Tsume stood beside him, bitter tears running her tattooed cheeks. "Dear Lord!" gasped the red-eyed woman, pulling both hands over her mouth. "Sasuke! What have you done? I didn't really think Sasuke would do such a thing." Kakashi muttered as he picked up Aomaru's corpse and sealed it into a scroll. "What he did? It's treason of the highest order." Kurenai clenched her fists. "This is my all fault," she said. "I should have kept a better eye on him. With Sasuke now a murderer, he had to be punished as such, yet Kurenai could not help but feel partially responsible for all the trouble her student had caused. After all, he had been a genin under her command, and thus, her obligation. "We have to go after him," she finally said with conviction. "You know we can't," Kakashi replied, pocketing the scroll. "We have to help Naruto and Lady Tsume in any way we can." Kurenai shot the Kopinen a dark look. "In case you forgot, Sasuke is my student and a part of Konoha too. You do whatever you want. I'm going after him." Kakashi sighed. The female sensei could be so stubborn sometimes. As soon as she had left, he summoned Pakun. "Keep an eye on Kurenai," was the brusque command. The pug obeyed and hurried after the other jonin. The Kopinen stared forlornly at his surroundings and shook his head. How did it all come down to this? As soon as everyone had left the valley, a strange plant-like object resembling a Venus flytrap emerged from the ground, and the leaves split open to reveal a green-haired man nesting inside. The strange thing about this man was the fact that one side of his body was black and the other was white. Stranger still was the fact the said man was talking to himself. "Well, that was certainly a sight to see, wasn't it?" chuckled the black half. "Indeed it was," agreed the white side. "Leader will definitely want to hear about this." Chapter 66, Failure's Bile. "So how is he?" Tsume turned to see Kakashi standing stiffly behind her, worry evident, despite his mask. "He's stable now, at least," she replied, her voice hard. Had that hole been a few centimeters to the left, his heart would have been punctured completely. Kakashi sharply sucked in a breath. "Dear God! After what happened in the Chunin exams, I should have expected Sasuke to try such a stunt again. I could only suspect how he managed to continue his shinobi career under that kind of mentality. His psychology tests were obviously rigged," growled the brunette, clenching her fists. "I'd like nothing more than to have all my dogs throttle those damned loyalists one by one." "You and me both," muttered Kakashi. Soon afterwards the two jonin left the hospital and went on their separate ways, with Kakashi heading off to the Kage Tower, while Tsume remained in the hospital and waited for Kiba and Hana, who had recovered enough to walk on their own. Suddenly, there was a slight tap on Tsume's shoulder. Startled, she spun to face her assailant, only to see Hana standing behind her. "The doctor told us what happened," Hana explained, her voice shaky. Her eyes brimmed with tears. "I told him. I warned him that this wouldn't end well, but did he listen? No. This is all your fault." Kiba snapped at his sister. "If you didn't jinx the mission, none of this would have happened." At this, Hana erupted. "I didn't jinx anything," she shouted. "If Naruto listened to me, he wouldn't be in this mess, now would he?" Kiba laughed mirthlessly. "Because you're always right, aren't you? Oh, look at me, I'm Hana Inuzuka. I'm never wrong, my word is law. At least I care, unlike you. All you ever do is rope him into one of your crazy escapades and have either mom or me bail you out." Kiba snorted. "You care? You care? Ha! That's rich. Does you go to that mission, and I'll never speak to you again, ring a bell." "Shut up, Kiba. I was angry and you know it. Both of you shut up this instant." Tsume roared. "Your brother is in intensive care, and all you ever do is fight and blame one another. Now listen up and listen good. This whole thing is no one's fault. As a ninja, Naruto is fully aware of the risks involved, even more so in a mission such as this, and he chose it willingly. I know things don't look too good right now, but remember, Naruto's an Inuzuka, and Inuzuka's dash. Never give up." Hana and Kiba chimmered, a surge of hope swelling within them. For the first time in 2 days, Tsame smiled. Exactly. I knew I'd find you here. Shikamaru craned his head to see his father, standing not too far off from his favorite spot. What do you want, Pops? Aren't you going to see your friends? Shikaku asked, his arms crossed. Ino's about to blow a fuse because of your absence. Big deal, muttered the younger Nara, returning to his cloud gazing. Ino's always about to blow a fuse. That's just how she is. Shikaku sighed heavily. Shikamaru, I don't like to argue because I'm not a woman. But you're also not a man. What you are doing lying here, trying to ignore your problems is the coward's way of coping, he continued. We Naras may be lazy, but we are not cowards. So what do you expect me to do? Shikamaru snapped, leaping to his feet. Everyone trusted me and look where it got them. Chuji and Naruto are in critical condition, and Neji's been injured too. The others managed to get out safely, but only because they had backup. My first time as a team leader, and all I did was lead my squad straight into the emergency room. I'm not even fit to be a shinobi. A sharp crack wove through the silence, and Shikamaru found his head snapped to one side, his cheek throbbing. Listen to yourself. Shikaku boomed, his hand outstretched. You're spouting off a coward's nonsense. He gulped in a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. By all accounts, you're not a bad leader, he spoke, this time more gently. But if you quit now, you'll never be a better leader. I know you mean well, the Nara clan head continued. But did you really think you'd be helping your friends if you quit? Even if you did quit, new missions would still occur. Your friends will simply be led by someone else, and they might still die. It's an occupational hazard all ninjas have to live with. So it's a stalemate? Shikamaru asked. Listen carefully, son. Success is nothing without failure. Failures exist so we can gain experience and learn from them, then and only then can we carry out our tasks with minimal setbacks. And if your friends really mean that much to you, instead of running away, consider that you could improve for their sake. So what'll it be? Shikamaru sighed and began making his way downhill towards the hospital. Do I have to say it? He drawled. A light chuckle bubbled out of the older Nara. Attaboy. There you go. Chirped the overly cheery medicnin as she finished dressing Neji's wound. Now, take care to apply this ointment every 6 hours, as well as change the bandages, she reminded. Also, please drop by next week for a follow-up. Neji gave her an appreciative nod. As he made his way into the halls, he was suddenly accosted by his younger cousin. You pinhead! Hanabi yelled, tackling the older brunette. What were you thinking, pulling off a stunt like that? I did what I had to do. Neji hollered back as he struggled beneath his cousin. So get off my back, you little monkey. Hanabi's eyes blazed with fury. What did you say? Her chokehold constricted into a headlock. Despite being only half Neji's age, Hanabi could pack a serious punch as the Hyuga prodigy began to turn into a mottled purple under her death grip. Hanabi, cease your shenanigans and get off your cousin this instant. Both Hyugas turned to see Hayashi looking both disappointed and embarrassed. Immediately, Hanabi released Neji from the headlock and scrambled off him. Of all the places for you to squabble, you have to do it in public and in a hospital no less. The Hyuga clan head thundered. And don't you dare pin this one on Neji alone. I saw the whole thing. A befitting punishment awaits you when we get home. Hanabi pouted and stomped her foot. But daddy dash. Hayashi was unmoved. No buts. You brought this upon yourself, Hanabi, he said sternly. You have no one to blame but yourself. Neji-san. All three Hyugas whipped their heads to see Hinata running up to them with a familiar redhead trailing right behind her. Shino and Tenten told me you were in the hospital, and I ran here as fast as I could, explained the short-haired Hyuga. Are you alright? I should be asking you that, Neji replied, scowling at the redhead standing behind his cousin. What is he doing here with you? Well, Hinata stammered, twiddling her thumbs. Jigara-san insisted on escorting me here. Escort? Neji half bellowed. He glared at the other boy hatefully. Well, aren't you the perfect gentleman? He hissed. After all what you did to my cousin, you think she'll forgive you? He snapped his fingers. Just like that. That's enough. Hinata cried, rising to the Sunanin's defense. Gara-san has done more than enough to make up for the Chunin exams. He saved my life, Neji, he saved my life. If it was not for him, I highly doubt I would have survived my encounter with Kimimaro Kaguya. Hayashi visibly paled. Kaguya, he sputtered. You fought a Kaguya. Having never seen her father so unnerved, Hanabi cocked an eyebrow at him. What's so special about a Kaguya? The Kaguyas were a shinobi clan from Kiri infamous for their Kekai Genkai the Shikatsumayaku, and their legendary bloodlust, Hayashi explained. Their bloodline allowed them to manipulate their bones into deadly weapons and powerful armor even stronger than steel. Because of this, the Kaguya clan grew arrogant and staged a coup against the Mizukage, but they failed and were banished from the village. A few years later, the clan was declared extinct after another failed invasion of Kiri. It took 2 Kiri-Umbu divisions and all of the 7 swordsmen to wipe out the clan, and it was not without cost. A third of those 2 divisions and 2 of the 7 swordsmen were killed as well. Hanabi was stupefied. Were they really that dangerous? Extremely, Hayashi replied. The only way for one to defeat a Kaguya is to strike at their vital organs, and even that is quite a feat. He turned to Hinata and Gara. It seems that congratulations are order for your victory. Does this mean you forgive Gara-san? Hinata asked hopefully. Hayashi sighed. We cannot erase the fact that this boy hurt you, but since he did save your life, we are indebted to him. As much as I loathe to say it, Sabaku no Gara is hereby absolved of his transgressions against the Hyuga clan. Gara bowed. Many thanks for your kindness, Lord Hyuga. Hinata hugged Hayashi. Thank you, father. Neji then stepped forward. Well, you did save my cousin's life, so I guess I could cut you some slack. But that doesn't make us friends. Yeah. Hanabi piped up. You want our trust, you gotta earn it. Neji. Hanabi. Hinata chastised. Well, it's true. Defended the younger girl. I like the way you think, Neji quipped. Hinata glared at him. What? He asked innocently. I said I'd cut him some slack. Hanabi and Neji do have a point, Hayashi mused. Father. It's all right, said Gara. I understand your family's predicament. Even if it takes me an eternity, I will try to earn that trust until I am worthy enough to be acknowledged as your friend. Tsunade gazed sternly at the man before her. What is it, Inoichi? Well, it seems that we've had some interesting developments with that Pao Shikamaru and Lady Tamari captured, the addressed replied, scratching the back of his head. Define interesting. While I was gleaning for information on Orochimaru, I accidentally stumbled into the girl's deepest memories, and you can never believe what I discovered. Just spit out, Yamanaka, Tsunade snapped. I don't have all day. Apparently that girl is a descendant of the Uzumakis. Inoichi prattled excitedly. As if her features weren't clue enough, long red hair, a rebellious demeanor. Why, she reminds me of Kushina Uzumaki herself. Uzumaki, huh? Tsunade muttered. Interesting indeed. Isn't it? Inoichi agreed. Suddenly, his expression turned pensive. But there's one thing I can't quite understand. What would Orochimaru want with 2 Uzumakis? Tsunade raised a brow. 2. Inoichi looked sheepish. In my excitement, I forgot to mention that she has a sister, also under Orochimaru's wing. 2 Uzumakis under Orochimaru. That's not a good sign. Actually, now there's only one, said the Yamanaka clan head. Teiwa, as the girl is called, is indeed part of Orochimaru's elite guard, but she isn't completely loyal to him. By now, Tsunade was clearly confused. What do you mean? She's more of what we at T&I call a working hostage, Inoichi explained. Using her sister's well-being against her, Orochimaru can ensure her complete submission. The Hokage nodded. I see. But what makes you so sure she won't simply escape? As you can see, this case is very similar to that of Anko Mitarashi and Kinchuchi, Inoichi explained. In Orochimaru's eyes, once you outlive your usefulness, you are as good as dead. Teiwa frowned. Something just felt out of place. For some strange reason, the forest floor felt too comfortable, and the air smelled rather sterilized. Maybe she was dead. No, it couldn't be. If she really were dead, she would have been in heaven where her parents, bless their souls, would be, though in her opinion, she would most likely wound up in hell, where she could torment the living eternity out of Kimimaro Kaguya when he got there. Inching her eyes open, she immediately squinted under the glare of the halogen lights. As she adjusted her eyes to her surroundings, Teiwa suddenly noticed a group of stern-faced ninjas scattered about the room, each one bearing a Konoha forehead protector. She immediately sprung out of bed, anxious to escape, but then her entire body was racked with intense pain, rendering her immobile, and she sank back into the bed, feeling helpless for the first time in a long time. A snarky chuckle was heard. "Looks like Sleeping Beauty has awakened," it said. "You want a piece of me, $#. Teiwa challenged. "Because I swear I dash." "You'll what?" said the voice as the speaker came into view, revealing itself as a buxom, purple-haired woman clad in a tan overcoat. "Kill me." She laughed. "Tough words for someone who can't even move a muscle. Well, let's see if you're any tougher when my companions come here and beat the end % crap out of ya," Teiwa threatened. The woman sneered. "What companions? You mean the ones arrived in Konoha via body bag?" Teiwa quivered with rage. "Lies." "I'm afraid she's telling the truth," said a new, more familiar voice. The redhead's eyes widened in shock. "Kin? You're alive. Why shouldn't I be?" Kin retorted, offended by the callous statement. "It's just..." Teiwa suddenly found her knuckles very interesting. "It's just that I saw him do that jutsu on you. By all accounts, you should be dead like Dosu Enzaku. And you should be dead like Jirobo, Kidomaru, and the twins." Kin shot back. "But you aren't, are you? But you're working for the enemy." The raven scowled. "The enemy gave me a place to stay and a purpose in life. They gave me a second chance when no one else didn't. Damn it, Teiwa. Why can't you accept that things could change for the better?" "Because it can't." The redhead was crying now. "I may be free from Orochimaru, but my sister isn't. What good is my freedom if I know Karen is still with that monster?" Kin bit her lip. "Oh Teiwa. It'll be okay," she whispered as she rubbed soothing circles on the other girl's back. "It'll be okay. What makes you so #sure?" Teiwa asked bitterly. This time, it was the purple-haired woman who spoke. "Aw come on, haven't you learned anything from your last fight, Red?" she said with a teasing lilt. "Remember, the greatest gifts come in small packages." "Miss Anko is right, you know," Kin added. "Karen isn't just your sister in name. She's a fighter, just like you, and if you survived, I know she will too." Outside the operating room, Ino anxiously waited for the status of her teammate. Her heart nearly stopped when she saw two medics wheel Chuji out on a gurney with Shizune not too far behind them. "Dr. Shizune!" she cried, running up to the medic in charge. "Chuji. Is he dash?" Shizune smiled. "He'll be alright, sweetie. The operation was a success, and we couldn't have done it without you. If it wasn't for your family's medical book, there's no way we could have whipped up the antidote. I can't take all the credit." Ino exclaimed. "It's the deer antlers from Uncle Shikaku's ranch that makes the antidote effective. Wow. Pretty, loyal, and modest. Your teammate is really lucky to have a friend like you." At this, Ino decided to divert the topic before her innate vanity was overfed with the compliments. "But what about Chuji?" she asked. "Like I said, he'll be alright," the medic assured. "I'd give him 5 days to a week before he'll be back to normal." "That's good to hear," remarked a certain ponytailed Chunin. "Shikamaru. Nara." The aforementioned shinobi looked at Ino, then Shizune, and then back again to Ino, who was stomping towards him, looking like she was about to explode. "Hoo boy, this is gonna be a pain." "Shikamaru Nara. Where have you been? And there she goes. Well. He began. Ino held up a hand. Don't bother explaining yourself. I know you've just been slacking off like you always do. Some friend you are. Your best friend is in the ICU, and here you are loafing around like some bum. Normally, Shikamaru did not really care what others thought of him, but after listening to Ino's accusations, something just snapped. Oh, like you're any better. He shouted. If you did something other than nag and whine for once, none of this would have happened to Chuji. What would you know? Ino fired back. I'm not on your team. I don't have to be on your team to know how you do. Girls like you are all the same. They're all a pain. Ino laughed bitterly. A pain am I? Well, at least I'm not like you, Nara. You are the worst friend ever. Well, maybe we weren't meant to be friends, were we? It was there at that point that Shizune decided to intervene. Stop it, you two. She said. Is what you want Chuji to see when he wakes up? His two best friends falling out. Well, maybe if he wasn't so lazy. Ino began, pointing at Shikamaru. Always the self-righteous one, aren't you, Yamanaka? Nara cut in rather acridly. Why would Chuji wind up like this if you're so strong? He sneered. Oh, that's right, because you're not. Hot tears prickled at Ino's eyes, but she held them back, not wanting to let Shikamaru have the satisfaction of seeing her cry. You're right, she said. I'm not strong, but at least that's what motivates me to get better. Unlike you, I'm not a quitter. Shikamaru chuckled mirthlessly. So that's what you all think I am, don't you? He hissed. A quitter. Ino flinched at the Nara's icy tone. Shikamaru had never spoken like that before. Remorse filled through her as she realized that it was she who had triggered the young genius to act like that. Shika. She sputtered. I didn't mean. Shikamaru cut her off with a hand. Save it for your friends, Yamanaka, he snarled. Because as of right now, I'm no longer one of them. I quit. He stalked off, leaving behind a stunned Shizune and a tearful Ino. A full day after being brought to the hospital, Naruto woke up, much to the joy of Hana, who was watching over him at the time. Still groggy and disoriented, Naruto suddenly felt his head reel and flopped back into the pillows. What happened? He mumbled. Where am I? Hana's expression turned grim. You're in the hospital, she answered. You had a severe puncture wound in the chest. Lucky for you, none of your vital organs were damaged. As his sister recounted the events, everything started coming back to Naruto. The 8-man team whittled down bit by those Otonin, he and Hinata teaming up against the Bonin, he and Aomeru facing off against Sasuke. Sasuke plunging a Chidori into Aomeru. Aomeru! He burst out, scanning the room right and left for any signs of the red puppy. He turned to his sister. Where's Aomeru? Eyes damp with tears, Hana shook her head. Naruto felt his heart stop. He knew that gesture all too well. He had seen it before at the veterinary clinic where Hana worked. Hana often used it when the animal died. Died. Aomeru had died. Those 3 words just didn't seem to string together. His faithful red puppy was gone and never coming back. Naruto's eyes bore into the back of his hands. Before he knew it, tears began to roll down his cheeks. I'm sorry, Hana whispered, enveloping her brother into a hug. I want him back, Hana, the blonde sobbed, his tears staining the brunette's flak vest. I want Aomeru back. Hana patted him lightly on the back. We all do, sweetie. Why did I have to go on that stupid mission? Naruto went on. I should have listened to you. Aomeru would still be here had I listened to you. Naruto, I was wrong. You did the right thing, and don't you ever regret it. Not many people would risk their lives to bring back a wayward comrade. She smiled ruefully. And I'm sorry I told you that I didn't want to talk to you again. I was just mad. And maybe, kinda dumb. Naruto sniffled and wiped away his tears. Tell me about it. Hana playfully flicked him on the head. Don't push it, she growled. But seriously, seeing you messed up like that really scared me. If you died, I would have never forgiven myself. Naruto smiled wanly. Glad to know you still care. But what about Aomaru dash? Aomaru's in a better place now. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it, Hana declared. He died for the village, he died so that you could live, and he died a loyal hero and a true friend. Chapter 67, Path to a Brighter Tomorrow. 2 days after he regained consciousness, Naruto was transferred into the regular ward, and on that same day, Kurenai finally returned to the village, haggard and empty-handed. The first thing she did was to report to the Hokage on the current situation. Tsunade was less than pleased upon receiving the news. In response, she immediately summoned Tsume, Kakashi, and Jiraiya to see her. All three soon arrived post-haste to discuss the gravity of the situation. All right, I'm going to lay it straight, said the slug Sunin. Despite our best efforts, the traitor Orochimaru was still able to get a hold of the Uchiha kid, and it's only a matter of time before he takes over Uchiha's body. Because of this dash. Actually, Jiraiya cut in, I just received word that Orochimaru has already transferred bodies before the Uchiha kid arrived Oto. It'll be another good 3 years before the bastard can acquire his dream body. Then what are we waiting for? Asked the Inuzuka matriarch. I say we round up our stealthiest Umbu and smuggle Uchiha back home ASAP. Jiraiya snorted. I don't see why everyone is so hung up on that brat. I know his type, he's the kind of guy who'd sell you out for a smidgen of power. Who said anything about bringing him back for the village? Tsume remarked disdainfully. The punk's hijinks alone have caused 9 injuries and 1 fatality. He ought to be hung, drawn, and quartered. Kurenai gasped. Lady Tsume. You can't be serious. I know Sasuke can be difficult dash. Difficult? The kid's like a level 10 crisis, Kakashi grunted. Don't tell me you've already forgotten the condition Naruto was in when we found him. Face it, Kurenai, your student's gone rogue. But executing him. Kurenai shouted. At least have a heart. Have a heart. Tsume's voice was dangerously low. Have a heart. She exploded. Did Sasuke Uchiha have a heart when he abandoned his teammates? Did he have a heart when he left 2 retrieval teams at the mercy of the Otonin? Did he have a heart when he killed my son's Ninken? Did he have a heart when he nearly killed my son? Jiraiya tried to calm down his former student. Now Tsume, I know you are upset dash. The brunette chuckled mirthlessly. Upset? I'm not upset, I'm livid. Suddenly, there was a loud crack as the Hokage's desk shattered into 100 fragments. All right, everyone shut up and calm the hell down. Look, Tsunade continued, Sasuke Uchiha's defection is indeed a serious matter, but we cannot keep on risking lives in retrieval attempts. Now that he is in Orochimaru's territory, it would be suicide to break into Oto and recapture the kid. It took the combined efforts of Jiraiya and me to defeat the old snake, and if he's healed himself as Jiraiya claims, the guy could wipe out an entire Umbu squad without blinking. My decision firmly stands, no further retrieval squads will be sent after Sasuke Uchiha unless I say otherwise. Is that clear? Yes ma'am, was the sullen chorus. Good, said the Hokage. You're all dash. Wait. Jiraiya called. Before we leave, there's one more issue we have to discuss. Tsunade glared at him. If it's about those cockamamie novels of yours, I already told you I'm not interested. This is no laughing matter, Tsunade, he persisted, his tone serious. I have been informed that there has been a recent spike in Akatsuki activity. At the mention of Akatsuki, everyone quieted down and all attention was directed towards the Toad Sunin. As you know, Jiraiya went on, the Akatsuki is a notorious group of S-class missing nin bent on world domination. One of their pet projects is the capture of the Biju, one of which of course is the Kyuubi. Because of this, I am requesting for your permission to allow Naruto to accompany me in a 3-year journey as my apprentice. Haven't we been down this path before? Tsume snarled. As powerful as you are, the Akatsuki travel in pairs. Wouldn't it make more sense if the pup stayed in the village where it's safe? Kakashi rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Lady Tsume does have a point, he added, If the Akatsuki try to attack Naruto in the village, we could all just band together and drive them out. Strength in numbers, right? Jiraiya shook his snowy mane. Teamwork's not gonna help you here, my boy. If anything, you're just digging a deeper hole. The Akatsuki is virtually a small army composed of S-rank missing nin. If all of them were to attack us now, they would completely level us in our weakened state. And how does having my son parade about the elemental countries help? Tsume retorted. Tsume, the boy will be on a 2.5-year training mission with me, Jiraiya replied. If anything, he and the village should be perfectly safe. But dash. Tsunade held up a hand, silencing the other woman in mid-protest. Tsume, think about it. Altogether, the elemental countries is a pretty big place. With Naruto constantly on the move, the chances of him being found are practically slim to none. Tsume buried her face into her hands as she sucked in a deep breath. When does he leave? She asked. As soon as he's completely recovered, was Jiraiya's reply. Naruto glumly looked at the little trinket he held. Aomaru's fang, the only physical reminder he had left of his partner. Immediately after the puppy's body had been brought back, it had been cremated and the ashes scattered, but Tsume managed to save a fang and hand it over to her youngest son as a keepsake. As Naruto looked on, he felt a lump form in his throat. Despite what Hana, Kiba, and Tsume had told him repeatedly, he just could not disregard the fact that Aomaru died so soon. His grip on the fang tightened. I never forget what you did for me, boy. I promise you I'll get stronger for your sake so I can protect the ones I love. And if I ever see that traitorous bastard again, I'll make sure he gets the justice he truly deserves. Believe it. Suddenly there was a knock, and Naruto quickly pocketed the fang. Come in. The door flew open and Kiba strolled in followed by Sakura, Hinata, and Shikamaru. The fun has arrived. He announced. So how ya holdin' up, bro? A little better, Naruto replied. But still crummy. Dude, don't be like this. Kiba said. It isn't like you to mope around and stuff. It's been 3 days already. Where's your usual cheery self? The persistent, go-getter attitude? The dash. Don't you get it? I failed. Naruto shouted. How can I protect you guys when I can't even protect my own partner? Naruto, we already told you dash. I know what you said. Snapped the blonde. But that doesn't change anything. Aomaru is dead, and your murderer of a teammate managed to escape scot-free. And you know what the worst part is? His voice had dropped to a hoarse whisper. The worst part is despite what he did, I still held back. He killed Aomaru, and I #% held back. I mean I was already in my two-tailed form, a Rasengan in my hand. I could have just said screw the rules and ripped him to shreds, so why didn't I? That's because you're Naruto Inuzuka, the most virtuous ninja there is. Hinata exclaimed. You're brave, kind, loyal, and you always keep your promises. Naruto scoffed. Yeah, that really helped me retrieve Sasuke back there, he muttered darkly. He hung his head even lower. The bastard was right, even with Aomaru, I'm nothing. That's not true, Naruto. Kiba shouted. That idiot doesn't even know what he's talking about. Yeah. Sakura piped up. Since when did you care what Uchiha thought about you? Come on Naruto, you know better than to listen him. I know you're an oddball of sorts, Shikamaru added, but you can't possibly be that crazy to believe that kind of nonsense. Naruto smiled wanly at his brother and friends. Thanks for the pep talk, guys, but dash. But nothing, Naruto. Hinata cried, eyes blazing. Uchiha-san knows nothing about true strength. Strength doesn't come from getting everything right the first time. True strength comes from accepting your shortcomings and working hard to overcome them. When we were in the academy, I was always behind Sakura and Ino. At home, Neji-san bests me all the time. In those times I felt like quitting, but whenever I look at you, I feel inspired because back then you were not the best either, but you kept working until you were. You may have failed this time, Naruto, but don't let that keep you down. Because I think, you already are an incredibly strong person with or without Aomeru. Naruto was overwrought with emotion. He Hinata. He hugged her. Thank you. Thank you for believing in me and helping me believe in myself. He released her and gave his friends his first genuine smile in days. Thanks guys. Thank you for everything. We're friends, Sakura replied matter-of-factly. You can always count on us to help you. What Pinky said, Shikamaru concurred. Kiba grinned. And we're brothers, man. We'll always have each other's backs. Sometime after his friends and brother visited, Naruto sat back in his bed watching the dusk clouds float by. Shika may be a genius, he said to himself. But he really needs to get a new hobby. I just don't see the fun in this. Just then his mother entered the room, followed by Jiraiya, their expressions dour yet apprehensive. Naruto, Tsume began, how do you feel about traveling the world? That sounds cool, he replied. But isn't that expensive? In order to do that, I'd really have to rack up my successful mission count. Unless of course. He gazed at his mother hopefully. You're paying. Naruto. Be serious here. She rebuked. I am serious. Said the blonde, a world tour really is pricey. I'll need some serious cash. Actually, Jiraiya cut in, I'm paying. Naruto's face fell. Well, now I know this trip is really going to suck. Tsume gave her son a strange look. And why is that? Because this old coot is a complete and total cheapskate, that's why. Can it with the jokes, Naruto. Jiraiya thundered. This is a grave situation we're in. Your world tour is a 3-year training mission with me. There will be no friends and only a limited contact with your family. Every single day will be spent in rigorous training. Naruto stared at the son in shock. You gotta be kidding me. He cried, I can't do that. Mom would never allow it. Tsume cast her gaze downwards. I already did. Naruto stared at her incredulously. Without asking me about it? Without considering how I would feel? Or is it my punishment because of Aomeru's loss? His eyes welled with tears. That's it, isn't send away the weak link because dash. It's none of these things. Tsume snapped. She knelt down and wiped away her son's tears. Honestly Naruto, we've talked about this before, Aomeru's loss doesn't make you weak. You were never weak. In fact, that's the entire point of this training mission. Without Aomeru and your refusal to take up a new ninkin, I can teach you no further. In lieu of this, Jiraiya has offered to train you mind, body, and soul to better prepare you should such an incident occur once more. We could just train in the village, Naruto muttered sourly. That's what we did before. Jiraiya snorted. And have the Akatsuki level it? I think not. Upon hearing the name, Naruto felt his blood run cold, the memory of his encounter with Itachi Uchiha still fresh in his mind. Besides, the Toad-san added, breaking the blonde's reverie. This particular training will take 2 to 3 years to complete and will cover a wide variety of disciplines not native to Fire Country. But what about Sasuke Uchiha? Naruto burst out. He's still out there. He's dash. Gone rogue, Jiraiya finished. That's the cold, hard fact, kid. Get used to it. Well, even so, there are bound to be more retrieval missions to bring him back, Naruto replied. And I plan on joining each and every one. Unfortunately for you, all retrieval missions involving Sasuke Uchiha have been put on hold indefinitely, Jiraiya stated. Not to mention you're not doing it for the village. Of course, I'm doing it for the village. Naruto shouted. He betrayed everyone. His people, his leader, his teacher, his teammates dash. Don't you spout that kind of nonsense. Jiraiya boomed. Do you really think I'm not aware of your motives? That's where you're wrong, Naruto Inuzuka. Again and again, I have seen young, hopeful people like you get consumed by the thirst for vengeance. Blinded by their desire, they soon lose their morals, their aspirations, and eventually everything they hold dear until there is nothing left but a bitter shell. And even if you did manage to kill the Uchiha kid, it's not gonna bring back your ninkin. Then, what should I do? By now, Naruto's voice had risen to a half-shriek. With that Uchiha kid as a prime example, you already know firsthand what vengeance does to people, Jiraiya replied as he turned to leave. And if you want to throw away your life and become the very thing you hate, be my guest. But don't say I didn't warn you. Wait. Naruto cried, stopping the Toad Sunin in mid-step. I'll do it. I'll do the mission. Well, that was quick, Jiraiya stated nonchalantly. Why the sudden change of heart? Someone has to step up, Naruto answered, a dogged glint in his eyes. I don't ever want to have someone die under my watch again. I want to get stronger so that I can protect everyone, my friends, my family, the whole village. Jiraiya smiled lopsidedly. You're an eloquent one, Aaron Shaw. It's agreed, once you've fully recovered, meet me at the fourth head of the Hokage monument. I'll be waiting. Orochimaru leered at the bedraggled figure before him. So glad you could make it to my humble village, Sasuke Uchiha. I take it you had a comfortable journey. The Uchiha glared up at him, revealing his new scar in the flickering torchlight. I'll take that as a no, hissed the Snake Sunin. Anyway, young Sasuke, now that you're here, I suppose you are aware of my little proposition. Yeah. Snapped the Sherry non-user, so what about the power you promised? Both Orochimaru and Kabuto's eyes widened in shock at Sasuke's pluck. So impatient, Kabuto thought, frowning. He bent down to the younger boy's ear level and whispered, if you value your life, you'd better watch your mouth. Even though he looks different, that's Lord Orochimaru you're speaking to. However, Kabuto's warning fell onto deaf ears. For all his trouble, he was rewarded with a death glare and a wave of killing intent. Kabuto, Sasuke, enough. The warning echoed throughout the hall. The bandaged man descended from his dais and leaned towards Sasuke. I don't know how you address your superiors in Konoha, young Sasuke, but you'd best learn some respect or else. Despite the civility in its deliverance, Orochimaru's statement clearly left a promising threat, and Sasuke found himself nodding. Very well, you may go, said the Snake Sunin. Kabuto, take young Sasuke to his new quarters. Orochimaru smirked as he watched the bespectacled medic lead his newest apprentice away. My future lies within this boy. Soon the all secrets of ninjutsu shall be revealed to me. Hey Shikamaru, Choji asked Ben mouthfuls, is it true that you and Ino had a falling out? The Nara exhaled loudly. Yeah. What about it? Aren't you guys going to patch things up anytime soon? Nope, came Shikamaru's swift reply. But you guys have been friends before you could even talk. Choji exclaimed. Would you throw all those years of friendship because of pride issues? Choji, let me be honest with you, said Shikamaru, I only tolerate Ino because of our dad's friendship. She's everything I don't like in a girl. She's vain, shallow, self-centered, naggy, the list goes on. In fact, I feel sorry for you and Shino dash. Now see here. Choji bellowed, throwing down his bag of chips. I don't know what crawled up your butt and died, but you just crossed the line. Sure, I'll admit that Ino can be a bit high-strung, but she's a nice enough gal. She nags because she cares about our well-being. Among all of us in Team 10, she's the one who promotes team bonding the most. And I think he suddenly cut himself short, unable to continue. Well, what do you think? Choji averted his gaze downwards. Forget it. It's nothing. He sighed heavily. Just make peace already. It's obvious that this spat is killing you both. Shikamaru sighed as well. Choji, I'm not gonna repeat myself. I'm not forgiving Ino. We're just too different. You'll just have to accept the fact that the friendship between Ino and me is over. He stood up and headed for the door. So, sorry. And with that, he left. Koh Hyuga knelt by the shoji door. Lady Hinata, you have a visitor. Oh? Who is it? She inquired. It's Master Naruto, Koh replied. He claims he has some news of the utmost importance. Where is he now? Hinata asked. He is currently waiting at the gatehouse, said the branch member. Shall I send him in? Yes. Please escort him to the parlor and have Misao send in some tea. I'll join him shortly. Yes, milady. Thank you KOH, and one more thing. Hinata called from the behind the partition. KOH looked up from his position. What is it, milady? You don't have to be so formal, after all, we are family. Yes, me, my dear cousin. Even though he had visited the Hyuga manor countless times, Naruto could not help but feel out of place. The entire estate simply screamed regal, imposing, and aristocratic. Hoping to ease his nerves, he reached and took a sip of the tea that had been served. Just then, the shoji door slid open and Hinata entered the room, smiling warmly. Good afternoon, Naruto, she greeted. I'm glad to see that you have recovered. Yeah, me too, the blonde replied, but I'm not here to talk about that, there's something I've got to tell you. Is it something severe? Hinata inquired. You don't sound too happy. No. It's nothing of that sort, Naruto replied, but it's not the best news either. I've been assigned to a training mission with Jiraiya of the Sunin. That doesn't sound so bad, Hinata remarked. In fact, that's wonderful news, to have been mentored by a warrior of such renown. There's one more thing he said hesitatingly. The training mission will last for at least 2.5 years. I won't be able to see my friends, my family, or you for a very long time. Go Naruto, Hinata encouraged, a heart-rending smile gracing her lips. But Hinata Go for me, she repeated. Don't hold yourself back because of us. We'll work hard as well, and we'll always be with you, 100% all the way. I promise. Naruto felt emotions run high as he listened to the Hyuga speak. Mechanically, his hands clasped over hers. Then I promise too. He spoke in a voice choked with emotion. I'll do my best to become a better ninja. And I'll keep my word because it's my credo. Believe it. I believe you Naruto, came the whisper-soft reply. Always had and always will. Naruto shouldered his pack a little higher as he cast a lingering look at his clan. Well, this it guys, he spoke, swallowing the lump in his throat. I guess it's goodbye. Aw man, don't be like that, Kiba replied, blinking back his tears. You'll be coming back, one-shot. And we'll write to you as much as we can, Hana supplied. She turned to Kiba. Are you crying? No. The brunette snapped, though his voice had a slight tremble to it. It's just something in my eye. Yeah right. Kuromaru licked the blonde's hand. We'll always think of you fondly, pup, he spoke. And in a voice choked with emotion, he added, as we will Aomaru. Tsuna bent down and hugged her son in a warm embrace. Work hard and do your best, Naruto, she advised as she released him. Have a safe journey. We'll miss you. A tear tricked down Naruto's cheek as his mother spoke. As will I. He began to walk in the direction of the Hokage monument, waving back to the Inuzukas. Goodbye guys. Take care. A chorus of farewells rose from the other Inuzukas as well. Goodbye. They called, over the howls of their ninken, goodbye. Return soon. Never forget your pack. After several minutes of walking, Naruto finally arrived at the base of the Hokage monument. Looking up the imposing figures towering over him, he reached into his pocket and took out Aomaru's fang and raised it towards the carving of the fourth. Watch me. He whispered, clenching his hand over the trinket. One day I will become the greatest Hokage that has ever lived and I too will continue protecting Konoha just as you have. Oi, Naruto. Jiraiya called, leaning over at the top of the monument. Are you coming, or are you just going to dally all day? Naruto put the fang back into his pocket. Yeah. I'm on my way. The path to greatness is often wrought with hardship, but ultimately it will lead to a brighter tomorrow. That's it for the final part of this series. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.